Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here, and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we have on the show a bit of a panel, something a little bit different. We have on the show Matthew Grech from SME Business Sales and Fiona Yiend from our very own Aspect Legal, talking today about the topic of the importance of a strong relationship between broker, client, and lawyer. So today, Matt, Fiona, and I really drill into this topic and dig through what some of the elements are in ways that we can work together as advisors for the benefits of our client and also for our own personal satisfaction as well. All right, this is an interesting one. We traverse some really interesting topics, but it covers some really important elements of not just how we together develop a strong relationship between lawyers and broker or advisors, but also about the elements that can contribute to a really good deal at the end of the day and a better result for our clients. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Buckle in. Here we go. Matt and Fiona, I just want to say a very big thank you for joining me today on today's expert panel.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So today we're really talking about that topic of the importance of a strong relationship between broker, client, and lawyer. And, you know, I guess what I'm hoping is that we can throw a few different perspectives in here, maybe talk a little bit about what that looks like when it's in its good form and maybe what it looks like when it's not in its best form and what the consequences of that are. But maybe, I guess, who wants to take it away? Does anyone here feel that they have a good shakedown perspective on it? I guess, Matt, what does a strong relationship between broker, client and lawyer look like from your perspective? I guess that's a good way to intro into it.
Sure, no problem. Look, from my point of view as a business broker, and you guys will know as well as I do, very few business sales go all that smoothly. There's always a couple of bumps along the way.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is the ones that are painful and drag on are those where I don't have a good relationship with either the solicitor or the accountant. Those where we've got a good chance of getting things wrapped up fairly quickly is when I've developed a relationship, or with the other sides have developed a relationship with me as well, with firstly the accountant and then the solicitor. We find that if we're all three of us are communicating, we seem to be able to iron out those bumps along the way and foresee some issues before they come up, so we can sort of nip them in the bud, so to speak.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And I think, you know, obviously this ability to talk together and solve problems together is good for each of us as professionals. But I think it helps us do a better job at the end of the day. But the number one key thing is it's really a client-centric approach. The clients are the winners out of us all working together and supporting each other as well, I guess. And what's your thoughts on all of this, Fiona?
Look, I couldn't agree more. It makes a massive difference to the client if they have three different people providing the best advice that they can give who communicate clearly with each other.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing for a client when they go bad is what happens is when the accountant gives one advice, the business broker gives another, and of course the lawyer has a third perspective.
Yeah.
And then they're stuck in the middle. They're the deals that I see where we have lots of challenges with. Whereas if we actually if everyone in that group is on the same page, not only are you forearmed and forewarned for bumps that are coming, you're also able to communicate effectively between each other if you've got that strong relationship.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about doing the deal. And the deal is much smoother if you can communicate clearly.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things I guess I should throw out there is the reason that we talking about this right at the moment on a podcast is, we've all been working closely together on many deals, and we've found in working together there's been a lot of benefits. We like your style, Matt. We love you working with us.
Thank you.
It's a veritable love in here.
Yeah. Yes.
But maybe let's talk about some of the element of what elements make it work. And maybe from Matt, your perspective, maybe start with us perhaps for some examples in the past where things haven't worked well. Have you got any examples of where, a rough interaction between the lawyers and the accountants or the other advisors has impacted deals?
Yeah, quite a few actually.
How long do we have? I guess that's a good
Yeah, exactly. And look, it's all been a learning experience for me as well. And I've got to say that I've only been doing this for about 5 years, but I think I learned something new in each deal that goes through. And I think, I'm not going to do that next time. Next time I'm going to do such and such. And an example of that was a business that I sold, I think about 12 months ago, and went through the appraisal, did the IM, got the buyer, all happened reasonably smoothly. We're on the market for about 6 months, and we're about to do the deal. And I was talking to the accountant, trying to get some information from him for some reason. And I have to admit, I'd only engaged the accountant or started a dialogue sort of late in the process. And he said, what price have you got for the business? And I said, X. He's like, surely it's worth Y. I'm like, hang on, why do you think that? So then he got involved and gave his opinion of value. So then there was a little bit of doubt in the client's mind or the vendor's mind as to what the business was actually worth. So, sat down with the accountant and had some market data, which was very handy, and said, these are what other restaurants in this area have sold for, etc. And, sort of got the client across the line that way. But what I do now is I have that conversation with the vendor up front, say, have you had a valuation done, and introduce myself to the accountant and give them my opinion of what it's going to sell for, and it just addresses those issues before they arise.
Fabulous. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And so I guess from your perspective as well, what do you think is the benefit of having a close relationship? And, I don't want to plug ourselves right here, but what is the usefulness? Let's just talk about us from an abstract point of view. What's the usefulness in having a close relationship with lawyers? And I just want to preface this by saying the reason that I'm asking this question is because I think a lot of brokers and advisors out there don't necessarily, I think they often feel like they're expected to have all the answers.
Yep.
And I think quite often they don't have a large pool of or good sources of people that they can turn to. And I think part of the development of our relationship with you has been maybe you've started to realise that you can utilise us as a resource as well. So I just want to talk about, what are some of the benefits sitting on your side as a broker, as an advisor, in having people that you can turn to as a resource, and how do you utilise that?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Fiona and I think, have done 4 deals together this year. I think we're up to number 4, maybe 5. I'm starting to lose track, which is a good thing. It might have been 10. Who knows? But what I love about working with Fiona or both of you is that I'm not apprehensive about picking up the phone and saying, look, I've got a deal coming through, a potential sale. What do you think about this structure? Do you think this will work? So I know I can ring Fiona or yourself, Joanna, at any time and just run things by you. And I'm not made to look silly, which is important for me. It's not going to cost the vendor or the client a silly amount of money putting these questions to you guys as well. And we find the best way for the client to go forward. So, and there have been occasions where I've almost typed up sales advice, called Fiona and said, I just want to check something with you. And she's given me some good advice and said, well, why don't you do it this way? I'm like, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. Send it across and, things go more smoothly. I explain to the client why we're structuring the deal in that way. They always nod politely and say, yep, if you think that's a good idea and the solicitor thinks that's a good idea, then let's do that. So that's what I particularly like, in terms of working, especially with you guys. There are a couple of solicitors that I've worked with in the past as well who are okay with that sort of thing, but I find that most of them have their way and they're like, okay, mate, just send the information through. I'll take over from here, which, I sort of lose, not lose control, but I feel like I'm no longer involved in the process.
Yeah.
Can I add on to that? Because I actually really like that process, and it really makes it a lot easier for me, because it means that early on I've got a heads up of what's coming, and I can give some constructive input from the legal side. So it helps me actually not, but shape it into something that's practical. Sometimes you get instructions and they say, this is what we've done. I go, oh, that's cool, but that's not realistic. I can't, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Whereas by having a close relationship and having that conversation and being able to give, being able to give that input and being asked for it when they're a little bit left of centre, it does make those different transactions go much smoother. So, yeah, I mean, I actually think it's a win-win. Wins works for me as well.
Yeah. I think it's also nice from a relationship perspective. We really enjoy, each of these transactions when they're part of a long-term relationship that you have as advisors together. Lots of things become easier working together to the client's absolute benefit at the end of the day, because, you learn from each other, you learn the styles that work together. But you also, many brokers and advisors have very differing levels of interaction that they want to have in matters. And I think having that ongoing relationship where you're doing multiple matters together, we get a feel for what you as brokers and advisors, how integrated you want to be, how often you want to be communicated with, how involved you want to be in the decision making. And, we're happy to play that however it's required, but it's great from that long-term perspective for our clients as well to get that integrated approach, because we both know how each other work, and we're moving these deals across really efficiently then, I think.
I must add, I've certainly learnt that getting an email every day from Matt's not an issue. First thing in the morning, yes, Matt, this is where it's at.
Or at 11 o'clock at night and you're still replying.
I don't take it personally. He just wants to know.
I'm the sort of person that I like being copied in on every email. I like to know what's going on.
But not everyone's the same. But I guess, and it's all about, everyone feeling that they have control over getting the amount of information that they want and being looped in at times when it's most appropriate. But I think there's sort of other benefits from the legal side as well. Maybe, Fiona, it's useful if you wanted to talk to us about, some of those issues that you've seen over time about the benefits of, the advisors or brokers being there to be filling a void perhaps that can be a little bit difficult for us as solicitors in who we can and can't speak to.
Yeah, so one of the things that I find that having a broker engaged throughout the wholesale process rightly, and I have no issues with it, is that I'm not allowed to talk to the other side's client. Okay, I have to direct it through their solicitors. But sometimes you get to a point where quite honestly, the two lawyers just aren't going to agree, and you need someone to be able to get the purchaser and the vendor together and say, okay, let's just sit down together in a room and figure it out, or this is the issue, or do you understand this? Or, for example, my client might dig their heels in and say, I don't, no. And then Matt comes from a commercial perspective. So if the engaged broker can come in, and they can sometimes break some of those bumps down from being, massive mountains into small roadblocks that we can climb over. And it's really that ability to engage at that alternative level. It's being able to, sometimes I love my colleagues, I do, but sometimes a room full of lawyers is not the best option. Sometimes a room full of commercial people might get it done. Don't tell anyone I said that. Don't put it on the podcast.
I guess the reality, though, is quite often we're dealing with advisors on the other side, like lawyers on the other side, who can be, let's face it, really, really slow. And sometimes I think it just really works well to have someone like you, Matt, that can step in. And it's particularly great, I think, that you're really active with your clients, because when you can step in and say to the other side, like, hold on, you realise some of these hold-ups are because your lawyers won't talk to us or whatever, it gives us another way to together as a united team, get these deals moving, and sometimes kicking and screaming across the line.
Dragged across the finishing line.
Dragging them across the finish line. That's
screaming.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, look, I think that's some really some useful examples. And I guess just generally, maybe I'd like to just talk between the three of us now about, maybe we might talk about lawyers, and then maybe we can also talk about brokers and advisors, because I think there's a few different things here we could cover. But firstly, what is it that lawyers have sometimes done that you've seen in the past, Matt, that really annoy you? What are things that really create a problem with a deal? And and just letting you know, we've only got limited time on this podcast.
That's all right. That's right. I'll keep it brief.
I'm kidding. That was a joke.
No, it's there's probably a couple of main things. Well, the first one really is the communication side of things.
Yeah.
Where if it might be a lawyer that the vendor's used for a property transaction in the past, and I say, okay, well, have they got experience in selling businesses as well?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do everything. I'm like, oh God,
that's a good that's a good flag, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I had one of those. I think it was late last year. They do everything type of solicitor who'd obviously done a lot of property transactions for this vendor, and they had a good relationship, but they were quite old school, didn't really want to engage me at any level, unfortunately, weren't responding to emails and calls and so on. And it was embarrassing and frustrating, but I had to ring the vendor, the client, and say, what's going on with the solicitor, when we're exchanging. So it was painfully frustrating, and there was a couple of things that came up which we could have addressed before they came up had we been working as a team. So that's probably my number one gripe, just the lack of communication. The other one is solicitors changing the terms of a deal after they've been agreed. So sometimes it's to benefit the client, but it's good for me to know as well. And there was an example a while ago where we were selling a business, and it was a business that the purchaser wasn't too familiar with the industry. It was another underground locating one. I've sold quite a few of those. And the buyer was coming from outside of the industry. And we had agreed a 4-week handover, which was included in the sale price. But I could tell that the buyer had some apprehension about how quickly he'd pick up the role. And I spoke to the vendor and I said, would you be happy to be on call for, say, 3 months? So you'll be a consultant, $100 an hour, whatever it is. Can you answer the phone? Come and help the guy out if need be. He said, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So we put that in the heads of agreement, went across, and the vendor solicitor at the time said, oh, there's no need for that. We don't normally do that. So they took it out without advising me, sent it to the other side, and then it bounced back and forwards a few times because the purchaser said, this isn't what we agreed on. So, racked up some legal fees. It was probably a week and back and forwards because of that. And it was just something that, was avoidable. So just communication is key.
Yeah, and I mean, things like that are just so simple, aren't they? Because they could just get on the phone and give you a call and say, well, look, here, I'm not sure about this. Why have you got this in there? And then suddenly they get the commercial background and realise, there's a good reason for it.
Exactly right.
But, some cynical people, suggest that maybe it's part of a fee racket going on. I'm sure it's not, but...
Not with you guys. I know that
Certainly
much.
Not
with you guys. Some other solicitors, maybe.
Yeah. And how about you, Fiona? What have you seen? I mean, I guess we as lawyers, because I think we actually as lawyers are the ones who often experience the worst because we're constantly dealing with lawyers,
although I do have some feedback for the brokers and the advisors. I do. I did have an awkward matter where the client and the advisor had a dispute. And I got asked to get involved. That was quite awkward and uncomfortable.
Not one of mine, Fiona.
No, definitely not one of yours. This was a while ago, not one of yours. So, I mean, one of those things is that we all talk about fostering those relationships. And I know that some of the advisors and brokers think that the heads of agreement is the end of their responsibility, but there are some bumps to get along the way. And I do think that, okay, every broker has their own style, every advisor has their own style. You don't need to adopt somebody else's style, but sometimes a little bit of input along the way is good, because whether in that particular circumstance the client went rogue or the broker went too silent, I'm not going to judge it, but it's never, that combined team helps achieve things, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So one of those things too is like, and to be honest, some clients are more needy than others, right? And it also helps. The broker has been dealing with them, with these examples where you've had it on sale for 6 months. 6 months, they can give you a bit of a heads up on how best to deal with that client to keep that client happy, right? Yeah. I have a different style depending on the clients. Some of them, we say, "G'day, mate, what's going on?" Others, it's very formal, and and it just depends on what they're looking for from their solicitor. So sometimes understanding those individuals and passing that information on makes a massive difference to the ride for me.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And I guess, I think one of the styles that I've noticed in you, Matt, as well, and I think that sort of shines through in your client relationships and in us being able to form a bit of a, client expert team together, is you're very personable. And maybe that's just a comment just generally for the industry as a whole, because these are really, it doesn't matter what size the deal actually is at the end of the day, they're almost always really important to the people who are involved. Like, it's a high emotion environment, don't you think? And we have an awesome responsibility at this stage in their business life or wherever it is. And I think one of the reasons that we've all gelled well together is because we all appreciate the importance of that, but we're people driven as well. So I don't know if I'm just
and I agree with that.
My side, but
and I always remind myself, and most of the vendors that I have are of retirement age, which is why they're selling, and they build a business over 30-ish years, whatever it might have been. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into that, and in a lot of cases, that's probably what they're retiring on. So it's not just a simple, from my point of view, it's not a simple transaction like selling any other asset. This is it for them. This might be the next 20, 30 years into their retirement. So you want to get top dollar for them. Appreciate the effort they've put into building that business and to look after them along the ways. And a lot of these guys haven't sold a business before. It's been their only business they've had, guys and girls. And you just need to be. I need to be conscious of that and keep in touch. My job's not done at exchange. I want to stay in touch until we've settled, they've got through that handover period and so on, and just to make sure that they're comfortable and things have gone as well as they could have gone.
Yeah. And sorry, did you have anything to throw in there, Fiona?
I just wanted to say it's amazing what a little bit of care and respect can do to a transaction. It really does position deal better if people, you acknowledge what they're going through and what it means to them. And as you said, Joe, no matter what the value on the dollar of the contract is, it's a big deal for each of the individuals involved.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely 100% correct there, Fiona.
I'll just add to that in terms of the deal size. Fiona just assisted me with the sale of a business which was just under $1 million, and it all went relatively smoothly. There was a bit of back and forwards between the two sides, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But I compare that to a restaurant that I sold about a year ago, and we got $40,000, so quite a small sale, and that dragged on for a long time. It was a very stressful process for the vendor, and they just wanted to get out of their lease. They were having a lot of issues outside of the business sale, and that was probably an emotional transaction for them than the almost $1 million sale, but transaction just recently. And I don't think I've had a vendor more appreciative of my services, because they were the sort of people that were calling me over Christmas saying, how's things going? Is this happening? Is that happening? And so on. And I probably put a lot more hours into that sale than the other sale that I just mentioned. And look, it doesn't matter. Like, it's good to get paid at the end of the day, but you almost forget what the dollar value is on the sale. And everybody's my number one client.
You know what? It's such a good point that you make, Matt, because I guess at the end of the day, there really is a massive impact of what we're doing in this industry. In this industry, you have the opportunity to make an impact on people's lives. So I guess that's, that really is a nice thing.
Yeah.
But it's operating in recognition of that. And I think that's even more important, or even more reason why there's so much benefit to acting as a united team, to make the process a positive and as smooth as possible, even though we all acknowledge no matter how much we know about the area, there will still be issues that arise during the way. But it's not the fact that there's issues, it's how we all deal with those issues together that makes a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the point. And that's the benefit of a united team. And that's the benefit of having a strong relationship, so that we can be full and frank with each other as well, and provide that support along the way and information that sometimes, I think is a really good point you made earlier, Matt, which was, you said that we never make you feel silly for asking things or something like that. And I just think it's like a really good point to highlight, because I feel so often that even people who are quite who have had like lots and lots and lots of really senior acquisition experience don't necessarily, no one knows everything about the area, right? But the biggest issues come in when people feel too concerned to ask the questions, and they feel like they're meant to know the answer to everything. Yeah. So I think there's a really good point in honesty and openness in terms of putting your hand up when you aren't sure, and going to people who are going to be there and support you and give you the answers at that point. So I guess that's just one thing that I think is worth throwing in there.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. So it's nice just being able to I call it the hotline now. Call the hotline. Why Fiona? It's like, is this doable?
That's because we're so attractive that we're on podcasts, isn't it?
Fiona, this is
I've been told I've got a good face for right now.
And here's where I'll announce we're heading for YouTube soon with these. Okay, good work. Well, look, thanks, team. I think that's been a really useful summation. Thanks both for coming in. Any parting words from either of you? Have we covered the field, do you reckon?
No, look, from my point of view, thanks to both of you for the assistance over the last 12 months and all thereabouts. It's been excellent. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more deals with you both.
Oh, look, we love you, Matt. You're absolutely fabulous. And you're just the example of people we absolutely love to work with. So a big thank you from us as well.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's a wrap. Thanks, team. And we'll have to bring this expert panel back, I think, at some stage. I liked it. I'm not sure about you, the listener, but I loved it. I hope you did too. Well, that's it for this episode of the Deal Room podcast, where we were talking with Matt Grech from SME Business Sales and our very own Fiona Yiend from Aspect Legal, all about the importance of a strong relationship between broker or advisor, client and lawyer. I hope you found today's podcast useful listening. And if you'd like more information about the topic, or if you'd like to contact Matt or any of our lawyers at Aspect Legal, then just head over to the website at thedealroompodcast.com. There we will link straight through to Matt Grech, and we'll also provide a link through to our lawyers at Aspect Legal if you or your clients would like to discuss any legal aspects of sales or acquisitions. And if you're a broker, advisor, or an accountant who works with clients in the sales and acquisition space, then we are very happy to extend to you our partner program. Now, our partner program is a free program that you can join up to if you're a broker, a corporate advisor, or an accountant, or any other advisor to businesses who are dealing with leading into a sale or acquisition of business or shares. And as part of that partner program, we offer you free access to our legal hotline, which is effectively a support line to our specialist lawyers that you and your team can call on as and when you wish to clarify any legal issues that might arise during the sales process, even if we're not the lawyers engaged on a transaction. Now, as you probably heard in this podcast with Matt, that extends to assisting you in terms of developing strategies as you're trying to carve a deal out together and working out what documentation to use in those initial stages of a deal or a discussion, all the way through to providing feedback or a sounding board on things that might be happening during a deal even we're not engaged in the deal. We provide this service because long-term relationships are deeply important to us, and we want to provide every opportunity possible to support you and your team in getting transactions across the line fast or getting your clients prepared properly for a deal, whether or not they're on the buy side or the sell side. Now, as part of that partner program, we also offer you to pass on to your clients or prospects a free pre-sale legal review where we jump on the phone or in person and we discuss through our specialist lawyers all of the essential legal issues that your clients need to be aware of and to help educate them about the process and the timelines from a legal perspective and to help uncover any potential legal issues that might slow down the sale or cause road bumps, because doing this examination in the beginning can pay off massive dividends into the future. This type of education for your clients will help to ensure that the transaction progresses as quickly, smoothly and efficiently as possible. And the third element that forms part of this partner program is a match-up database that we run. So we run this match-up database between brokers, corporate advisors and accountants, and also business buyers and sellers, where effectively we are able to connect up accountants or brokers or corporate advisors with businesses who are looking either to sell or acquire. So if you're on a partner of ours, you go straight onto that partner database where we can see opportunities to provide matchups, then we introduce you in. And the final element of our partner program is ongoing education in the form of seminars, webinars and meetups. Now that's something new that we are introducing into the partner program in the last half of 2019. So if you're already a partner, fabulous. We're looking forward to having you along to some of these events in the future. And if you're not a partner, then all you need to do to become a partner is pop us an email at partners@aspectlegal.com.au and just simply say in your subject column, I want to become a partner, and send us your details and we'll get in contact with you. It's as easy as that. Well, that's it for today's episode. I just wanted to thank you so much, our listeners, for listening in, continuing to listen in. If you enjoyed what you heard today, then we would be absolutely grateful if you would pop over to Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast player and leave us a review. And of course, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. All right, well, thanks again for listening in. You've been listening to the Deal Room Podcast, and I'm Joanna Oakey. See you next time. Aspect Legal has a number of great services that help businesses prepare for a sale or acquisition, to help them prepare in advance and to get transaction ready. We've also got a range of services to help guide businesses through the sale and acquisitions process. We work with clients both big and small and have different types of services depending on size and complexity. We provide a free consultation to discuss your proposed sale or acquisition. So see our show notes on how to book a time to speak with us, or head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment. Thanks for listening to the Deal Room Podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.